Alright, in this video I will be doing a test of the Nissan and Dupli paint touch-up pens on my Nissan Pathfinder. I was going to do this about a week and a half ago, but the weather has not been great, as you can see. So while it's raining, quick comparison of these two pens. The Nissan one has two ends to it, a paint end and a clear coat end. This is a KH3 super black, and there's a little QR barcode thing so you can watch a demonstration video. The Nissan demonstration video is pretty good. It's straightforward, not a lot of bells and whistles in it, but a good video overall. Tells you how to use the product. And the cost on that at Nissan here, where I'm at, was just under $25. It's not a bad price, I guess. This Dupli also Nissan, you can see it's a KH3 super black as well. And I found the paint colors to be equivalent, not much difference there. And the clear coat on this one is on the bottom, just like on the Nissan one. And this one is more. This one's almost $10 more, so about $32, $33, whatever. It also comes with a QR code that you can scan and get into some videos. The videos for the Dupli are also adequate. So you can see that I've taped off two areas, one for the Dupli, one for the Nissan. I would say the Nissan's holes are a little bit more friendly than these Dupli ones that I'm going to try and fill in, because there's also some dents over here on the Dupli side, but whatever, I'm really just showing you how these things work. Now the one benefit of the Dupli is that it has this little sanding stick on the end of it, so you can actually get in there and get the rust out and any loose paint, that kind of stuff. So for that reason alone, I would give the edge on which of one of these paint sticks I would buy to Dupli. You can get these little sticks separately, but obviously that'd be an additional cost, which would probably bring the cost of the paint pens to about the same amount. So, you know, full disclosure, I do like the Dupli a little bit more, although the paint and everything's about the same. So once I've used the little sanding stick, I got some grease and wax remover. You can also use rubbing alcohol, anything to get the dust out before you put a little bit of paint on the rock chips. And one thing I'd point out is I have literally hundreds of little tiny rock chips all over this vehicle, so I am kind of going for the utilitarian approach and just filling in the ones that are down to metal. So before I do the Nissan one, you gotta shake it up. If you put the paint on without shaking it, there is a chance that the paint will have separated and you'll get some funky colors coming out. The Dupli one gets some bad reviews, and I would assume it's because people didn't shake them. So Nissan says tip the pen up, push down on the tip to get any air out, and then get a piece of cardboard or something, and then just dab the end of it on the cardboard until paint starts coming out. Pretty simple process. And then Nissan says do dabbing instead of dragging it across the scratches or paint chips, so I'm going to do the dab technique. And you can see it does fill in the holes. I only do the paint once, and you might be better off to do the paint a couple of times just so that there's no depression in the paint. You might get a better result with that. Like I said, for the Dupli also shake it up because you don't want separated paint. The Dupli little pointy end here doesn't work for me initially, but at the end of the video I do use it. So I do use this brush, and I find that the brush puts on quite a lot of paint, so you gotta be a little more careful than I was that first time. For that first big glob I dropped on there, I do actually take a piece of paper towel, wipe it off, and just redo it. So I don't leave it like that because that would be a little bit too much. And one thing I would also say is it is a little bit of a benefit to have a little bit of a raise, because the paint actually dries out and pulls itself into the chip a little bit. So you can see the two different paints there. I think that the colors are the same. I don't really see a notable difference in the color of the paint or anything like that. I do see a notable difference in the color of the clear coat though. So I'm just using the method demonstrated on their two videos. Same thing with the Nissan clear coat. Shake it, tip it upside down, poke it so it get any air out, and then poke the little foamy end into a piece of cardboard until clear coat starts coming out. Then go over to the paint that you put on and do some dabs. Nissan says this is an optional thing. You don't necessarily have to do the clear coat. I don't know how well the paint would hold up without it, but that's what they say. One thing I would point out about the Nissan one is it is a little bit opaque going on. The Dupli has a fancier brush for the clear coat, and I actually like the Dupli clear coat brush more than the Nissan one. I'm happy with the Nissan for putting on the paint, but this clear coat definitely goes on a little bit better with the Dupli. The Dupli is also significantly clearer. You can see that it doesn't have that opacity that the Nissan one did. And there you can see both of them on the vehicle. That's the next day, so everything's dried off. The Nissan opacity is kind of gone, but that is what they look like if you just put on some paint and some clear coat. And just to be clear, this is exactly how I leave the rest of the vehicle, because as you can see, it looks like a starry night on my vehicle. There's literally thousands. I would have to sand the entire vehicle to do this process. So I am going to sand these ones to show that you can make this look better. So I've got 1500, 2000, and 3000 grit sandpaper. Obviously I'm going to start at 1500 and work my way to the 3000. The tape is going to come off here because it's not really designed to work with water, so I am wet sanding it. Obviously, like I said, starting with the 1500 and using a little foam block inside of the sandpaper. So spray it, sand it, spray it, sand it. 1500, then I'm going to the 2000. I don't think I actually put the 3000 into the video, but it's the same process anyway. And like I said, the tape's going to disappear here in a second anyway. And you can see there that the ridge lines are all gone. It does look a little bit different with the water on it, but that also goes away once I polish it. This technique would be good if you had 1 or 2 scratches, maybe a little area like I'm working on here, but I would literally have to sand my entire vehicle to do this. And at that point, you might as well just paint the vehicle, I would say. So I just do paint correction on the rust so it doesn't get rusty and bubble out and that kind of stuff. But if you had a really nice vehicle, good paint job, and it had one just nasty scratch, you could do a bit better of a job. Maybe put 2 or 3 coats of the paint on, sand in between putting on the paint and the clear coat, and then do 2 or 3 coats of the clear coat. It would come out better for sure. So once I'm done with the sanding, I'll use the buffer and the cutting compound. This is Meguiar's. I've done some videos on it. You need to do this after you sand it. Otherwise, you'll have a really funky, hazy spot on your vehicle. So you definitely need to do a cut, a polish, and a wax over that area that you sanded. So after cutting it, just give it a wipe down. Then I'll take the polishing compound and the other buffer. You can still see where that sanding occurred a little bit in there. A little bit of a hazier line. And then I'll polish that down, and the last thing I'll do is come over with the wax. So just like the cutting compound, buff in the polish, take a little microfiber cheap towel, wipe it down. The one thing I would say, in the videos, it looks like they just like dab the paint on once and the damaged area just magically disappears. I don't think that that's the case. Certainly I can get a better camera angle that would make it look like it disappeared, but in reality I think you're always going to see that damaged area. Unless you spend a lot of time on each of the scratches or rock chips, you'll probably always see that little damaged area. And like I said, I'll just hit it with some wax, so just apply the wax, 10 minutes later come buff the wax off with a microfiber cloth. And I'll try and get it at a better angle so it's not as obvious as the angle I'm on. So that was the Dupli color chip, and in here is the Nissan paint chip. So like I said, you can get an angle that makes it look like it's completely disappeared or nearly disappeared. It really depends on what angle you're looking at, and I think in the videos they probably played it up a little bit. They just didn't dab it once and then have it done. And then, like I said, this Dupli color pen is actually pretty good. Initially I couldn't get it working, but once I dabbed it a whole bunch and kind of moved it back and forth on the metal, it did start working. And in fact, it was really good for those little tiny scratches. So you can see those scratches sort of disappearing and little pinpricks. So that's another plus for the Dupli color. Overall, like I said, Dupli color is $10 more, but you get the sanding stick, you get like a big applicator like this brush for brushing the paint onto the damaged areas, and you get that little pen. And I think that their clear coat application system is better. So 100% I would go for the Dupli color. That said, the Nissan one works, so either one's fine, but obviously I'm trying to compare these two things in this video. If I was being honest, Dupli color is better. I find the Dupli color is a little bit messier because you're taking lids off and there's paint in the lid and stuff, but other than that, I really have no complaints. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.